Hello, you multi Macon Monitoring Mavericks. And thank you to Willem Killian for that malt mention. This is Ralphie Review 941 Extras, X for Extras, in which, having recently reviewed a single malt whisky, I am now giving you additional extra information, which is me passing on my experience as a seasoned old hack to you to help improve your whisky experience. It's basically handing down the knowledge so that you learn more faster. Because what's happening is we're entering a really exciting time for alcoholic beverages around the world. Because the access and availability, despite bureaucracy, despite the political obstructions placed by the authorities in place of free trade, I won't go into any more detail than that. We're in a situation where we can actually get a lot more access to a variety of spirits from around the world than we used to. Unless you're in Iceland, where imported spirits can be very, 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 very expensive and rather restricted. And that's the reality of it. So in this review, what I'm going to do is really just compare and contrast what is two separate bottlings of the same whisky which have been bottled differently. And I'm going to examine the difference in experience on my palate, just to give you a point of reference for maybe doing an experiment with a bottling or a brand yourself. You could do it, well, it would be a bit harder with rum and bourbon, but you can certainly do it with Scotch whisky. You could compare, for example, an official bottling at 40% with a cask strength bottling from an independent bottler, and it kind of extend the range of your experience. It's when you put whiskies side by side at the same moment in your palate, that is when you really give your brain the opportunity to use the senses to analyse, particularly the sense of taste, to really analyse, contrast and compare. It's one of the most valuable learning opportunities. So I've recently been reviewing these two Benromachs. This was Ralphie Review 939 and this was Ralphie Review 941. So in this whisky, the standard 10-year-old, it's bottled at 43% and it's chill filtered. This whisky is a cask strength of 60.2% and it's not chill filtered, and there isn't much difference in the price, relatively speaking. Now, a word of caution. Benromach is a small distillery with a limited production. It's simply not operating on the scale of Macallan, for example, which is a mass production distillery. Or for another example could be Glenfiddich, another big distillery, or Glenmorangie, yet another big distillery. And these big distilleries tend to be able to put the product out further around the planet to more remote places from Scotland. So you tend to find them in up high-end bars, in any airport or any major city around the world. These you're less likely to find, but they are distributed by one of the leading independent bottler distributors in the UK. So I know they're out there somewhere. So what I've done is I've reduced the cask strength down to about 38% volume, and I've done the same with the standard bottling, which has been chill filtered. And the reason I'm doing this is, first of all, excuse me, let's bunch this up a little bit, give myself a bit more space, because I'd hate to knock these bottles over. So I'm going to come forward and let you actually look at the glasses side by side, and you may notice this is hazy. It's got a slight haze in it, and this remains clear. Right? Hazy, clear. The hazy one has been unchill filtered and is bottled at 60.2%. The water has gone into it, diluted the spirit, and the spirit is no longer able to keep the particles of barley oil in suspension in the solvent, because alcohol is a solvent. So it's starting to cloud up a little bit. In the standard 10-year-old, it's been chill filtered. It's the same strength, but it remains clear, because there's a process using an industrial concertina device in which the whisky has its temperature reduced at the bottling plant to either about 2 or 3 degrees above zero, or even below zero, or even lower still, depending how clear you want the whisky. And then it's forced through these paper filters, just like you would have a coffee filter made of paper. And many coffee connoisseurs hate filter papers because they feel it contaminates the coffee. Well, I'll let you decide. It's actually a very interesting procedure, because I don't object about it in standard Scotch blended whisky. It makes sense for a passive consumer to give a cosmetic product, because that's what they're buying into, because they're being guided by marketing. And you've got the ice in it, you see, because the ice cools the flavour in a tumbler. It cools the flavour and it makes it less unpleasant. That's why many lagers and beers like Foster's and Heineken, when you even buy them in bars, they're heavily chilled, because you won't notice the insipidness of the flavour if they happen to be served at room temperature. You leave that for the real ales, the properly made, less industrialised made ales that are fabricated more naturally. So we've got the two side by side. That's the first thing you notice, is the appearance. And I'll talk, by the way, about this in a future extras. I'll talk about the haze in whisky. I'll talk about what they call turpidity in whisky. Why they call it turpidity, because it's a psychological name that they use. Also, I'll talk about flock, when little particles kind of bunch up into like snowflakes. And I also talk about when whisky, the occasional times and reasons why whisky can actually go cloudy. It can go cloudy like Pernod, right? Now, people expect Pernod to go cloudy. You add the water, it turns the colour of milk. It's part of the marketing, it's part of the appeal of it. So there's no botheration about that. But in whisky, it's convenient for the industry to chill filter, because it helps present their product in a more cosmetic form to the consumer. Moving on. Taste-wise, what the taste between them? This has got more complexity. What's happening is, as the alcohol is weakened due to dilution, it chases off the additional flavours which are still bonded to the volume of alcohol in the solution with water in the glass. With the 43%, the character's there, but not the fullness of character. The basic flavour's there, and it's very pleasant, it's a lovely whisky, but it's lacking the depth and range that you have in the cask strength version. When you taste them, the 43%, it's a little more sweet, wood, vanilla, apple. It tends to shift off the palate quicker because it's thinner. Literally, it's molecularly thinner than the cask strength whisky, which has simply more density to it. So the chill filtered one is less dense, and therefore, because of that, the flavour dissipates from the palate, from the tongue, more quickly. In the cask strength version, you taste this side by side. It's the only way to do it for direct points of reference. Your reference and nobody else's. The sweetness is more constrained by the sensation range, which is far more intact. It's crisper. There's more of an oiliness to it, because for a simple reason, there's actually more oil in the spirit, physically. It's got more weight. It's got more body, as the wine connoisseurs would say. And to have less body, side by side with more body, so more body is, particularly to an experienced palate, you pick up on this. And the best way to really get your head around it is go online and look at pictures of a chill filtration machine. And then have your chill filtered whisky. Take a taste and hold it. No swallow, just hold it. Let it remove itself from your tongue. A little bit of an aftertaste there, gingery, some fresh apple, slight nuttiness. It's gone now. The cask strength version, well diluted and getting increasingly hazy with that Scotch mist. Just opening up now. The flavour expands to the side of the mouth, the roof of the mouth. It's more visible on the tip of the tongue. I'm not swallowing. The flavour is still developing. I've not even hit the finish yet. Now I have crisp apple, little slight toffee this time. Like a kind of toffee apple or a slightly baked apple. Hint of conserve or ginger jam. So here I'm now giving you descriptors on the finish that are slightly in variance between these two glasses. Let's separate them again. If you're an experienced whisky drinker, this is a fundamentally invaluable experiment to do, because it clears up for you personally that you've had the opinions out there, you know there's controversy about it, you know that it is an emotive issue amongst whisky drinkers. Those who are more advanced and moving along in their whisky journey are gravitating towards higher strength whiskies, particularly looking for unchill filled. I mean, there must be a reason for that. And yeah, I've been approached, say, Ralphie, we've sat down with a panel of tasting experts and we gave them chill filled and unchill filled. They couldn't tell the difference. Of course they couldn't if they're just whizzing through them. You know, it's with time. It's the time factor when you slow things down. And this is where it really matters with the increasing price of whisky. Mouthfeel, texture, all the rest of it, as part of the event, is a very valuable component of the experience to experienced whisky drinkers. And there you have it. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to recommend that you set yourself the challenge. It can be any whisky you want. Get a chill filtered, diluted version and an unchill filtered, cask strength version of anything side by side and go for it. Just go for it. And at the end of it, you make up your own mind. I'm Ralphie. Happy to share. It's been a malt moment. It's been an extras. Over and out. Bye-bye.